A big shout out goes to Maxxis Tires, Jensen USA, and Fox Shocks for supporting the Inside Line. Welcome, mountain bikers. All right, so, not quite a year ago, the first World Cup Vital Raw clip of 2023 was you exploding yourself in those rocks at Lenzerheide, and that was not something anyone wanted to see. You're still recovering from it. Can you kind of walk us through everything basically from then to now? Like, give us a Cliff Notes version, but
Sure.
going face first at 1,000 miles an hour into those rocks, like, couldn't even
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah, it sucked, dude. Like it sometimes like all the worst possible things line up in like the right kind of way.
Mhm.
And it's just like, yeah, I mean, pretty much like, I mean, as I've talked about a lot, like the goal last year was to be in a position to fight for a World Cup overall championship and a world championship. Like those were my goals, was to try to win those two things.
Yep.
I podiumed like 3 of the last 4 races coming out of 2022. We had this new bike. Like I had an amazing off season. I felt better, stronger than I kind of ever had coming into the season. I felt like I was really smart. Like I crashed like 2 times, I think, in all of 2022. Like really like went like 7 World Cup races in a row without even crashing.
Hmm.
Like I was really trying to do things smart and safe. Not that you can ever guarantee that because it's mountain biking, but I had a really good off season for 6 months. Like I don't think I had any really crashes. Like just was building up nice and slow, just checking the boxes. We were right on pace, and then I went to Switzerland. Um, I think it was my third practice run. The track started dry that morning, and it was really hard pack, and then it rained for like an hour, so it got that like real slippery, like greasy layer on top, but it wasn't muddy. Like the track was still fast because it was hard pack, but it rained just enough to like slime up the top layer. So I was like, I remember just kind of taking it easy and was like, yeah, it's just practice day. Let's just get in some runs and get familiar with the track and, be smart about it. Amory had a really big crash that morning that basically took him out for the season, I believe. And I was kind of coming through this rock section and the rocks were just a little bit slippery. And there's this weird little like wiggle in the track that all the riders have basically complained about for years, but you basically have like a tree and then like a big square rock, and there's like tree and rock, and you have to go like right between the two, and you're going through rocks before you do it, and your pedals probably clear by like this much on
Yeah.
both sides. Like
Yeah.
it literally forces you to wiggle, and they're big, they're probably a foot and a half. That rock is like pretty big, so you kind of come in sideways over some stuff, and then you got to like thread the needle, and then right after that there's like a 5-foot drop into some rocks. And so I just kind of came in decent speed. I don't honestly really know what happened. Like the bike just skipped out just a little bit. And because you're so close to those rocks, like it skipped out literally like a couple inches. And I think my frame, like the rear part of my like rear triangle or whatever, like hit the rock on the side
Mm-hmm.
and kind of hooked up and pitched. And if it would have been anywhere else on the track, I just would have like taken a foot off and kind of like gotten squirrely and like
Yeah.
skidded maybe out through the tape, and I would have been fine. But because there was that 5-foot drop, like right there, like there was nowhere to try to save it. So I had to kind of like eject off the bike, which might have been okay too. But that rock wall had like a bunch of boulders in it. And one of those boulders had basically come loose, and they had just pushed it like a foot outside of the course tape. Like they didn't want
Oh,
to
are you
move it
serious?
further out. So like I jumped off the bike, and then basically like I would have slammed pretty hard, but I landed, if you slow mo the video, like I landed my leg like right in front of that big rock. So my leg, like I was pretty lucky not to break my leg with how it, like my leg was sore for weeks.
Hmm.
But the thing kind of like caught me and then like just like whiplashed me into the ground extra hard.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of just like all these little things just kind of lined up like just right to make a very small mistake turn into like very high consequence. So yeah, just slammed the ground hard. I could feel my arm like pretty much as soon as I hit the ground. I was like, man, that hurt. My leg was honestly hurting a little bit worse.
Hmm.
but I don't know, sometimes you smack the ground hard and things hurt. And then a few minutes later, you're like, yeah, I think we're okay.
Mhm.
So I was just trying to be positive because I was like, I can't believe that just happened on the third run. Um, but I went to like lift my arm, and I've broken bones before. There's like a certain feeling when you break a bone that people can relate to. Like you get it into the right position and it's just like, oh, like, whoa, like something's not like it's not connected
Yeah.
almost like, and there's a sharp pain. So it was kind of doing that. And I knew when I picked my bike up and I sat on the bike and I grabbed the bars, and that's usually my test after I crash. I'll kind of pull and push on the bars if something's hurting. And when I went to pull on the bar, I could tell like something was not
Gross,
not
dude.
right. I had like no strength. Like it
Mm.
was like a light switch. Like boom. Like nope, it's not there. And so that luckily there was a road like 50 feet from where I crashed. So I pushed the bike over to the road and I just rode down the hill one handed, and got back to the pits. And long story short, like we went to the hospital and I was like, well, maybe it's not broken. Maybe I just like really like zinged it pretty hard. And we got x-rays and they're like, no, it's broken. And I was
Mm.
like, and I was like, well, maybe it's not bad enough that you need surgery, because I broke bones before and they just heal on their own. And we got some more follow-up images and they're like, nope, it's going to need surgery. And I
Mm.
was like, so then it was like, okay, do we fly back to Nashville and get surgery, or do I stay in Europe um, and get surgery there? So I was chatting with Red Bull. They were awesome. They made a bunch of calls to like their top doctors over in Munich, and we had surgery scheduled there. But after talking to some of my doctors here, they were like, hey, dude, like that's kind of a gnarly bone to break the way you did it. And they're
Mm.
probably going to have to mess with the ligaments a little bit. It's not going to be a fun week or two after surgery. Like,
Mm.
you probably want to come home for this
Yeah.
one, because I wanted to stay and support the team. And I was like, we had an off week, I think. So I was like, maybe I can get surgery and then I'll go to Leo Gang and at least help the boys out. And we were supposed to do like a vacation with my wife and her mom, and and so we kind of ended up canceling everything. And I came home and got the surgery here, and I'm really happy I did, because it was a gnarly one. Like I've had a couple surgeries before, and sometimes you're like a bit nauseous for like a day from the medicine or whatever, and then you're just kind of chilling. Like I'm not one. I never take like the hard pain pills. I'll just ibuprofen for a few days and then
Yep.
just deal with it. But this one was like a couple weeks of like miserable pain.
Ugh.
Like really had a hard time sleeping. There was like no position where it was comfortable. So I had to wait a couple weeks for the swelling to kind of go down before I could get surgery. And then I had surgery, and then it was like a rough month, but definitely the first 2 weeks sucked.
Ugh.
So
And what
anyway, so I
is
was,
it your elbow, like part of your arm? Where was it?
yeah, so it was the radial head. Like it's basically like the socket in your elbow that
Okay.
like moves. And so I broke the head into like three pieces with some little
Ugh.
bonus things hanging off.
And do you
So
think
the
that was like
bone,
an impact into the rock, or was it the way your arm bent?
I don't know. Like I can't remember really how I
Okay.
landed. Like I had a big elbow pad on and everything, like I always ride with. So it was just like the force when I guess it's like a fairly common injury for, big crashes like that. Like the force of the head slamming into the
Okay.
joint is
Yep.
hard enough to break the head. So it's not actually from like the impact. I think it was somewhere else is where I took the slam, but it just like jammed it in there so hard that it
Gotcha.
broke it.
Yep.
So yeah, the bone wasn't honestly too big of a deal. They just put three like really small screws in it, and the screws like countersink into the bone, so the bone heals around the outside, and then it's like nice and smooth. And they're pretty small. When they got in there, it was like a little worse than the images look, so they had to clean a few things up. But the thing that sucked is like the last screw that they went to put in to get it at the perfect angle to make sure that bone spacing was perfect and tight. Because if you don't get the head like perfectly smooth and like in the right spot, it will grind in that capsule or whatever, and then
Yep.
you'll have issues down the road. So it was really important that they got the spacing and everything like just perfect on that, so that I'll never have issues. But to do that, they ended up having to like detach part of the tendon on the forearm, and then
Oh,
they had to like pull everything over to get that screw in and then reattach it.
dude.
So that's where my complications have been from the tendon, not the
Okay.
bone. So yeah, that was probably a long-winded
No way.
answer. So that was the surgery. And then long story short, basically I was hoping I would be back in 3 to 4 months. Like, and they were, the doctor was like, hey dude, like it's probably going to be at least a year before you feel like you don't really notice this thing. Like, and I was like, really? Like, dang, because I've had full shoulder reconstruction surgeries and stuff like that. And in 4 months, I'm back on the bike feeling like pretty good. And he's like, yeah, I mean, we'll try everything we can. He's like, but this isn't one of those injuries that you can rush. He's like, a lot of
Mm.
people that have elbow injuries, if you push it too hard too soon and you don't get full range back, they'll tighten up and literally like lock in bent, and like you'll never get that range back.
Yeah.
He's like, so you're gonna need to be really smart and patient on this one. So anyways, like I was training like super hard right out of surgery, like as far as like I was in PT like every day. I was in the gym, I was doing cardio, like I was really trying to keep myself in tip top shape to come back and race those last couple World Cups. Because I think we had like 4 months until they were happening, or 5 months. So pretty much went hard for like 3 4 months and then realized like we're not even going to be close.
Crazy.
So yeah, we just stayed on the PT. I've still been doing it now. um, and then yeah, I think when the bone kind of healed, I got fairly strong, especially like holding stuff, not pushing, but like
Mm.
pulling. And so we were at the bike park and we were doing a bunch of rock work around the bike shop and stuff. And I was doing my PT and I was starting to ride, and it was definitely really weak and I had to ride really easy, but it wasn't really painful. And then I think just between the gym work I was doing and like picking up, baseball sized rocks at the bike park, I kind of fired up that tendon a bit.
Mm.
And so that thing got like, I kind of got tendonitis in like 3 spots of my elbow. And like just from the surgery and everything, like it was just, dude, it was like pissed off for months. So it kind of went backwards for a few months.
Okay.
And I had to like stop riding, stop doing like any kind of repetitive work, and like really be detailed for the last couple of months. And now I feel like now I've got full range back. I'm in the gym. I'm starting to ride without pain. And it's like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. But dude, it's been
Yeah.
rough. I've never had an injury that's been, usually, it's like it starts to get better and then you're like, cool, a few more months, like it'll be perfect.
Yeah.
Like this thing is like you have to work on it almost every day. But if you overwork it just a little bit, it like goes
Goes
backwards a week.
backwards. Yeah.
And it's like,
Oh,
or 2 weeks or a month. So, anyways, I think we're pretty much past a lot of that now. Like it feels really good.
okay.
I'm getting strong in the gym. I can start riding. It's coming along, but dude, it's been 8 months plus, so it's been hard.
Yeah, dude, that's a long time.